Now I want to
Yeah.
ask you, what was that transition like coming from Europe, then coming to America? Because a lot of, musicians back in the day, they would go to Europe and they'd fall in
hmm
love with it, and it wasn't as much, I guess, racial tension. Not saying it wasn't none at all, but it wasn't as,
A lot, like I would just tell you a lot less. So, like, I grew up like if you liked somebody, you dated them. And I'm not going to say there wasn't any racial issues over in Europe, but when you grow up in a military environment, there's some differences in race and people's thought process. But, for the most part, you just hung out with who you hung out with. You dated who you dated. So, it didn't matter the background. They could be from Guam, they could be from Hawaii, they could be from Samoa, they could be from, traditional, what I call European American, they could be black, they could be wherever. And if you like someone, you got to know them and you dated them and hung out with them. So until I came to the States, when I came to Washington, that's when I thought like, oh, you can't date who you want to date necessarily because there is this whole racial divide. Now, I didn't deal with a lot of it, but I did deal with some of it kind of moving because I was kind of used to everybody was everybody. And I was really into school too. So I was like really into books and being educated and understanding just business. And I wanted to be successful. So just the difference between Europe and United States is like, the way people talk about you and the way people talk about race. Because when I was over in Europe, man, everybody was everybody and we just had a good time. And we traveled all over and we drove on the Autobahn and we went to Spain and we went to France and went to Italy and we just saw so many different things and went to different clubs. And, when I was in high school, we were going to clubs and, the drinking age over there is like 17 for Americans and 16. So it wasn't really like a big hang up because, we'd go to clubs on the weekends and dance and listen to music. And, sometimes like I was into rapping. So sometimes I'd have opportunity to rap in a club. So it was definitely a lot different when I kind of came over to America full time because I'm an American citizen, but it was like a kind of a culture shock when I came over to the States and how people's thought processes were different, especially as I started to travel. Like I've been to all 50 states. So when you go to certain areas of the United States, it's very segregated. And it's not that there's not, segregation all over in all 50 states. There's some sort of segregation, usually by economics. But when you go to the South, sometimes, especially when we're on tour and promoting, man, you wouldn't see a European American. I could be in Mississippi and Alabama, and other than at the airport, you're not seeing too many European Americans, around. It's just, black folks listening to black music and enjoying black music and going to shows and that kind of stuff. So to answer your question, it was kind of a culture shock for me to see the difference that the way I was treated in the United States compared to being treated over in Europe.
oh yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I travel a lot too. I mean, like you say, even going from Spokane, Washington, I've been up there a couple of times. Then you go to the Bay, it's a little more diverse, a lot of
Yeah,
different.
absolutely. Well, it's a lot. So you think about diversity, right? So you think about different kinds of foods and different kinds of people and backgrounds. So like guy named John Phillip, known as DJ Swole, used to produce some tracks for us. He's from Tonga. Originally, his family's from Tonga. So he used to travel with us. And cats would be like, man, what are you? You're not black. You're not white. You're not Asian. And they had never heard of someone, Polynesian guy from Tonga. Like it was like a culture shock to them to be like, man, you just look different. So when you travel around, people are just not used to seeing people that are different from them. So a lot of times people are in that same area, especially financially, if people struggle financially like some folks do, they're not used to traveling over to cross country or traveling to another country. They're used to seeing the same people that they see continuously. So sometimes it's a little bit different as you travel and see folks that way.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Big shout out to the Bay, man. That's like a mecca for music, man. So many
Yes.
great artists, Tupac. I got a chance to interview Lenny Williams, some members
Oh
of Tony
yeah,
Tony Tone,
absolutely.
the Bay ain't no joke when it comes to that music. So, is that where you started to get into the music business, or was you already
Well, I was already in the music business because I was, I was doing I was in entertainment because I was doing radio. I was a radio DJ. So I used
Oh,
to
okay.
DJ with a guy, Grand Mixer GMS, who mixes with Nasty Ness Rodriguez. So you think about Sir Mix-a-Lot, Nasty Ness, and DJing and all that stuff. And I learned kind of how to mix on the radio, and I just kind of cut my teeth as a radio DJ with Grand Mixer GMS, and then knowing Nasty Ness and getting to know him and understanding that. So I was already in what radio, if you will. So coming to the Bay Area, my relationship with Master P was about, hey, I'm doing this thing. You're working with me already. We could really do something special in the Bay Area and what we're trying to do and what we can do. So moving to the Bay Area had to do with wanting to be in a part of the music business from a business perspective. Because when I started, I wanted to rap. And, I tell this story all the time. Yeah, I wanted to rap until I found out rappers are getting like 6 to 12% percentage on the record sales. And I was like, why do I want to be the rapper? I want to be the producer. I want to be the label owner. I want to be the business executive because that percentage was higher. So when I worked with P, it was like, okay, I could take these ideas and strategies that I have along with his ideas and strategies and his drive and my want to be great and do something kind of special. So coming to the Bay Area and meeting someone like St. Charles, E40's uncle, and St. Charles, he taught all of us the game. So when you want to think about folks like Short, you think about E40 and Be Legit and Sibo and JT the Bigger Figure and Master P and C Murder and me and everybody like in the Bay Area who was really making moves from a music standpoint, learn the game from St. Charles. St. Charles taught us all about distribution, about putting records together, about the idea of running a label and understanding distribution. All that came from St. Charles. So coming to the Bay Area was about understanding that if I went to New York, like you start off, like that was the thing, like you go to New York, you start off as an intern. And not that I was above being an intern, but I always thought like cats would be like, man, you come to New York, you got to be getting people's dry cleaning. You got to be, picking up their stuff and making their coffee and all that. And I used to be like, well, why do I got to start there? Why can't I start doing something different? And the Bay Area was great because in New York and LA, people were trying to get signed to record deals. That was the deal. Hey, I'm trying to get a record deal. So New York would have an AR week. Like you go to a record company in New York City back then, they would say, hey, Thursday, come in between this time and we want to see you perform, or we want to hear your demo tape. That's how people were trying to get on. Man, in the Bay Area, they were trying to put out their own albums because they were working with folks like St. Charles. They were working with folks like the Music People. They were working with folks like City Hall. So when you're working with St. Charles and Solar Music Group and he's showing you the game, you're like, wait a minute, I could put out an album and make $7, $8 a CD, and I can make $4 or $5 a cassette, maybe $6 a cassette, compared to signing as an artist when you may be getting 80 cents a record or 90 cents a record, or maybe a little over $1 a record after you basically, the record companies recouped the advance money they gave you to put the record together. So it was a kind of different mindset. So when I moved to the Bay Area, I was excited to work with P. I was excited for us to do some incredible things together. And I didn't have to start at the bottom. Like I was already doing promotion and street promotion and marketing and everything. So it just was only a quick progression to me being his manager, then being the general manager of the label, and then executive vice president, kind of running the day-to-day operations and coming up with what our strategy was going to be and working side by side with Master P. It just worked real quick.